So welcome to another episode of the Maroon Machine podcast. Today I'm joined by a man who made his debut for Falkirk at 18 years old and scored his first goal within the first 10 minutes. Played for 7 teams over his 19-year career in football so far. He's East Stirlingshire's all-time top goal scorer, and he's Kelty's new signing. It's Andy Rodgers. How you doing, Andy?
I'm not bad, mate. Not bad.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much for coming on, and let's just delve right in. You're born in Falkirk, raised in Falkirk. What was it like living in Falkirk and playing football there as you sort of grew up?
No, it was like anything back then. It's basically all you knew, wasn't it? It was football, so I could sort of played boys club football for was maybe, I think I maybe started about 8 or 9, playing maybe 2 or 3 years above my age, but I was right through until I actually won the Scottish Cup at boys club Gairduck, who were probably one of the biggest boys club teams at the time, and then lucky enough to sign with Falkirk sort of S-form when I was 15.
That's good. And that sort of Scottish Cup run, what's it like at that level? Is it quite competitive with the other teams, or were you in quite a loaded squad?
No, we were. We always knew we'd probably always get to sort of quarter-final stages, but there was a few big teams like Hutchie Vale, and we actually beat Hearts in the final, and ironically the game was at Tynecastle, so no, it was a few good sides, but look, to win the Scottish Cup at any age and any level is obviously good, and it gives you a wee feel for it.
Absolutely. Was there any sort of notable characters when you were going through the ranks at that point?
Well, the team that actually won the Scottish Cup, I played alongside Richie Britton, who ended up at Ross County and other places. I think he's actually back at Ross County as a coach now. Richie was in that team, and the team that we always sort of came up against later stages, Hutchie Vale, that was Darren Fletcher was their big sort of player at the time. And he was like, I think he was actually a year younger than us, but he was miles ahead of everybody else. So he was good.
Actually, that's obviously invaluable playing with boys of that calibre as well as you move up, and like you say, you eventually got signed up to Falkirk, and like I said in the intro there, made your debut when you were 18 years old, and you came off the bench and you scored in your debut game within the first sort of 10 minutes. What was that like?
It was quite a strange setup to it, because ironically, I was only really involved, or as far as I'm led to believe, I was only really involved because we had played a game with under 18s on the Wednesday, and I'd actually got sent off. So the 18s were playing on the Saturday morning, but I was suspended. So I thought as a punishment I was getting took to the first team game because it was at Dingwall. It was away to Ross County. So I was like, oh great, up the first team. But I said it wasn't until like 10 to 2 that I realised that I was actually on the bench. So, and as you say, luckily enough, I think we were drawn 1 each and managed to come on maybe with 20 minutes to go and score the winner. So, and I was a season ticket holder, Falkirk fan growing up, so it was like 18, it was like come true stuff sort of thing. So, no, it was good.
Absolutely, I suppose that's not a bad reward for picking up a red card either, is it?
Aye, no, exactly. As I say, I thought I was getting punished, but it turns out I was needed with the first team, so it was good.
That's brilliant. And when you were at Falkirk, you went and you had a wee week's trial down at Tottenham as well. What was that like?
Aye, well, that came on the back of that game, bizarrely. Again, I'm told that Spurs had scouts up watching Don Cowie, right, who was at Ross County at the time. He ended up getting moved in South, but so obviously that was the Saturday, and the Monday morning I got called into Alec Tottenham as a manager at the time into his office, and he says, look, I've had a message yesterday for somebody at Spurs and look to see if you'd be interested in going down next week for a week's trial. And I was like, where did that come from? But obviously it's not something you would say no to, so I went down there for 3 or 4 days, and again it was different world stuff, but it was definitely something I'll never forget.
What were the facilities like there? Was it?
They were talking for that time. They were, well, that's like nearly 20 years ago, 19 years ago, and I would say they were sort of, the facility there at the time was probably on a par with like Murray Park at Rangers. So it was that sort of, I know Spurs have since moved to a newer setup, but I know it was, everything was there for you. It was unbelievable, and obviously the standard they played was ridiculous as well.
Absolutely, and yeah, when you came back up to Falkirk, you were obviously sort of in and out the squad, used in more of a substitute capacity, but you were part of that side that went on to win the first division, the old first division, so sort of the championship now.
Championship, yep. I know that was, to be fair, that was the summer before we won that. Ian McCall came in and took the job. Alec Totten had sort of retired, so McCall came in, and he did bring us near enough a full new squad. So there was only 4 or 5 of us that were sort of still involved. And as you say, I think I maybe made about, I don't know, 30 sub appearances, run about that 28, 30. Yeah. I don't think I actually started a game, but in fairness, the front three was like Owen Coyle, Lee Miller, and Colin Samuel. So I was at 18, I was sort of fighting a losing battle to start many games. But as you say, we were unbelievable that season. We won the league quite comfortably, and it was also the last ever season at Brockville, which probably made it that wee bit more special, especially with me being a Falkirk fan. Brockville was getting knocked down, but unfortunately, after winning it, the league bosses decided that because we never had our own stadium, they wouldn't allow us promotion. I think they put a couple of ground sharing options to them, but they said, no, ground sharing. And then the sort of dagger was, I think 2 years later, Gretna done the same and got to ground share at Motherwell, which was a bit of a kick in the teeth.
That must have been a bit sweet after winning it. You know, was there a point where you thought you were going to be playing in the SPL, or was it something you thought was kind of inevitable?
I think for about if I remember right, I think for about the January, February onwards, we sort of knew what the outcome was going to be. I think we'd done all the sort of legal fighting before then, and by about January, February, we knew, regardless, when we won the league, it wasn't looking like we were going to get up. Which, as you say, it was a bit bittersweet, but it was still a massive achievement to win the league how we did. And but look, we could only do our job on the playing side. The rest of it was out with our hands, so that was still something we really enjoyed. But the following season, maybe not so much.
Absolutely, and during that sort of winning season, it was a weird sort of co-manager setup they had, Owen Coyle and John Hughes. John Hughes went on and ended up coaching them for a few years. That must have been quite interesting, sort of playing under those two.
It was, as I say, I think Ian McCall was in the summer, and I think in January he got the Dundee United job. Mm-hmm. So it was for the sort of January onwards, Coyle and Yogi were both still playing. They were both still big players for us, but they decided to take it over, and we had Brian Rice was their sort of assistant at the time. So Yogi and Coyle basically played every game for then till the end of the season. And Chipper sort of took it for the dugout, so it worked well, and it worked well as I felt it worked really well. That Coyle was he was really good with all the boys. He was the sort of calming influence, and if you couldn't get wound up for playing for Yogi, then you'll not get wound up for playing for anybody, because he was basically a crackpot, but he was good. He knew how to get the best out of players. Put it that way.
Absolutely. Do you know what? Whenever you hear about teams that are successful, they always seem to have that kind of two gaffers that sort of knock off each other. So it doesn't really surprise me that it worked quite well, and Falkirk went on to win the old first division as well. After Falkirk, you spent a few years away at Dumbarton and Montrose. It was sort of a wee bit a step down as far as quality, but for you, it was a step up as far as playing time goes. What was that like? Was that something you enjoyed?
It was. I had, when I left Falkirk, I still had a year left of contract, but I'd basically been made. I wasn't probably going to play as much as I wanted, and I had the option to go to Dumbarton. I went on loan for 6 months, and then I got the option to go permanently, and it was something that I took straight away. I knew the management team at Dumbarton. It was people from Falkirk. Brian Fairley was there at the time, and I knew him quite well. So I went there, and I had 2 really good seasons at Dumbarton personally, to be fair. The second season, unfortunately, we got relegated, but I'm pretty sure I scored something like 19 goals in a season where a team got relegated, which was quite good going. And as you say, I then went to Montrose, because at the time Montrose were looking like they were going to have a real good push, and they seemed quite ambitious. And again, my first season there, was quite successful for the club and myself. I think we got to the playoffs and scored a few goals, and then just with football, a new manager came in the following year, and it maybe wasn't as great the second season, so I had to move on again.
Yeah, absolutely. Aye, that year at Dumbarton, you league-wise anyway, 75 appearances and 22 goals. So it was definitely one where you were able to settle in a wee bit more than you maybe had been able to at Falkirk. After your stint with those two, though, that was your first sort of sight at Shire. Your first move there back in 2008. Prior to you joining, I think that was the season that Shire, they'd had a few seasons where they'd sat at the bottom of the League Two, and they'd sort of been told, look, you need to up your game here, or you're out, more or less. What was that like coming in?
It was a strange one, because I didn't really know what to expect when I went. As you say, they were bottom of League Two. There was a wee bit of pressure being put on them about losing the licence if they didn't start. And to be fair, I probably didn't help, because when I signed in January, I think I maybe went 13 games or 14 games without scoring a goal. And I was sort of seen as the first signing of the club that they were going to be more positive. They had a new investor coming in, and Jim McInally then came in and got the job. But I never really started well, and luckily enough, I think we had to beat Montrose last game of the season to finish second bottom, and I managed to score the opening goal that day. We won 3-1. I think Forfar maybe finished bottom, but I was under a wee bit of pressure, because I'd went a good 2 or 3 months without scoring a goal, which wasn't ideal to start, but luckily enough it got better for there.
And that was against your old stomping ground at the time as well, playing against Montrose as well. So that would have added a wee bit of, I suppose, pressure heading into that last game. But it must have been, you're never going to, necessarily celebrate finish second bottom of the league, but it must have been a relief for everybody at the club.
You could tell. Obviously, I had only been there a few months, but you could tell how much it meant to everybody at the club that they never finished bottom, and the sort of pressure had been lifted slightly. And don't get me wrong, I think they knew that there was better things coming, because, as I said, there was an investor came in, and the club was sort of in a much better place anyway. But no, it was good. It was good to get the win that day and no finish bottom, basically.
Yeah, and like you said, that's sort of when Jim McInally came in. You obviously played for him at Peterhead later in your career as well. Mm-hmm. Was that quite a good sort of partnership? I take it as somebody you feel like you thrived under. I think Shire went on to finish third in the next couple of seasons, and even get a chance into the playoffs, I suppose.
Yep, I loved working under Jim, to be fair. It was just so, when I was at East Stirling first, it was just so positive. Everything we'd done was positive. There was no sort of negative feeling around the club at all about how we approach games. We just tried to win every game. There was no defensive setup. We just went out and tried to basically win games of football. And it just made it enjoyable. Made it really enjoyable. And away from football as well, he was a great guy, looked after me. And no, I wouldn't have a bad word to say about him. And I think majority of people who have played under him will say the same.
Absolutely. And after that, you went to, after spending a few years there, and like I said, quite successful as well. You managed to get into the playoffs. Came your move to Ayr. How did that come about? After, I suppose, quite a successful spell at Shire.
Well, again, it was probably the flip side of when I signed for the Shire. The investor that we had at the time was sort of moving on. The club were in a much better place, but they probably weren't quite pushing as much for promotion like we had done the 2 seasons. I know the following season it was going to, a few boys were moving on, and Jimmy Mack was honest with me. He told me that, he says at the stage of my career that I was at, he says you're probably better going and try and finding yourself a better option. He says you could probably play at a higher level. We were in League Two, and then, to be fair, it was one of my ex-teammates at Falkirk, Scott McKenzie, was the assistant manager at Ayr. Right. And Scott had phoned me that summer and asked if I'd be interested in going to Ayr. So again, that was up into League One. It was a team who were going to be pushing for promotion for League One, so it felt like a no-brainer at the time, to be honest.
And you got plenty of playing time while you were at Ayr, but you ultimately only spent the 1 season there.
Yeah, Aye, it was. As I say, I loved it at Ayr. It was. We actually got promoted that season. We won the playoffs. The first half of the season, probably up till Christmas, I played regular. We knocked Hibs out of Scottish Cup as well. We beat Hibs in a replay, which ended up like live on Sky and stuff. So it was the club was a good place to be around. But unfortunately, the game after that, pulled my hamstring, so I was out for maybe 8 weeks, to about January to March, and then by that point they had signed Michael Moffat came in, and
Right.
he came in, and to be fair, he was on fire when he came in, so it was difficult for me to get back in. And I think that probably played a part in why I was only there the one season, because I would say Ayr's probably the only time in my career where I've left a club at the end of the season through basically like the club not offering me a deal. Right. So it was completely out with my hands. I would have probably stayed at Ayr for longer if the opportunity was there for me. But unfortunately, the club wanted to go a different way after getting promotion, and like that's understandable. People, you've got to make choices. So no, but I loved my season there. Loved it.
Absolutely. And then after that, sort of 2011 time, it was on to Stenhousemuir. Yep. You got a wee personal accolade when you were there. It was one of the months I think September, you won the goal of the month. Do you remember that one?
Aye.
Overhead kick, I think, against East Fife.
East Fife, aye. It put me out a massive hole, to be fair, because I think I'd missed about 3 or 4 one-on-ones that day, and we were drawn one each. It was a big game for us again because we were trying to get into the playoffs. As I said, I'd missed a right few chances, and luckily, last minute, I just a cross came into the box, and I managed to sort of overhead kick it into the bottom corner to get us a 2-1 win. So it was definitely one of my better finishes.
Absolutely, and that you spent a few seasons at Steny, but again, sort of a wee bit of, would you say, in and out of the squad? I think you played about 49 the league games over the couple of seasons.
The second season, definitely. The first season I sort of played every week. It was me and Stuart Keane played sort of every week, but the second season again a new manager came in and I was sort of in and out. I was maybe playing wide one game, playing up front one game, on the bench for a few weeks. So that was difficult. And then again, it was a club who came to me and said that there was an opportunity for me to go out on loan if I wanted to, and run about the January, February, and they had said that I think they'd been interested with Stirling Albion at the time. But when they told me I could go on loan, my first instinct was to contact Jimmy Mack, because I knew he was at Peterhead, and again they were going quite well in the league. So I just chanced it and contacted Jimmy and asked if he'd be interested, and he says 100%. So it was a hard move to make, because obviously the distance, the location. I was still staying in Falkirk, and I had 2 kids by that point, 2 young kids, but it just felt, career-wise, it just felt like the right thing for me, and thankfully it turned out it was, because I ended up having 3.5, 4 years at Peterhead and really loved it.
Yeah, so after Shire, that's the club that you spend the majority of your time in. Quite successful as well. You managed to put a few goals away, and we said it earlier on about your promotion or your league winning season with Falkirk. You had another one again, this time with Peterhead, and you played a part in the Falkirk one, no doubt about it, but you definitely played a part in the Peterhead promotion. Is that right?
Aye, it was a massive thing for the club. I think it was the first ever trophy in senior football. The previous year we had actually finished second to Rangers when Rangers were in League 2, and unfortunately we had lost the playoff final to East Fife, who were in League 1, so we played in the playoff final, lost. So our aim was always then the following year to go and get promotion, win the league, and fortunately we did. We came really strong. I don't think we started the season too great, but we came strong for about October time, and to be fair, we ended up winning it quite comfortably again, maybe with 3 or 4 games to spare. But I was fortunate enough that I managed to strike up a partnership with Rory McAllister. If you can't play and score goals alongside Rory, you'll not play and score goals alongside many people, because it was, to be fair, at that level, it was unbelievable, and it was we ended up doing quite well together.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Kelty, I've played against Peterhead a couple of times over the last couple of seasons, and McAllister's one of the boys he's definitely stood out. it's one of the standouts for them. But that sort of game that gained you promotion as well. I think you were able to pick up a goal in that, and I think for having a look back at the game as well, it was a former teammate that was between the sticks for the opponents as well, Jamie Barkley, that was on the receiving end of that as well, eh?
Aye, but I think I used to give Jamie a wee bit of stick because I'm pretty sure when I was at Peterhead, I think I maybe scored a good 4 or 5 against Clyde that season. I think every game, the 4 games, I think I maybe scored in at least 3 of the 4 games. But no, it was, again, as you say, to get a goal on the day that the club won their first ever trophy was incredible. And we probably didn't expect to win it that day because I think Aaron, who came second, I think they lost. And that was like their first loss in weeks. So, so no, it was good. And look, they probably, I think Jimmy Michael probably tell him, I think winning the league, we probably over-celebrated it because I don't think we won another game the rest of the season. But the job was done at that stage, so we were not really bothered.
Absolutely. Peterhead definitely a short history, but they definitely got a hell of a history and some brilliant stories seem to come out of that club. But your sort of big club, it was East Stirlingshire throughout your career, and you went and joined them for your second stint. I think you potentially, did you go out on loan, or was it the first time you went to Shire that you went on loan?
No, I think I went on a month's loan technically, but to be fair, I knew Peterhead, as I say, as a club, are magnificent, and they kind of looked after me. What happened is my last season at Peterhead, about the January, February, I started getting a problem with my knee, and I knew it was in a bit of bother. But Jimmy Mack had says to me, and the club had said, "Look, can you try and play through at the end of the season? We'll just sort of manage it." Didn't do a lot of training, came off the bench here and there. He says, "And what we'll do is in the summer, we'll pay for the op. We'll get you your op and sort it and pay for it all." So I was like, right, that's great. But then the closer I got to the end of the season, I kind of deep down myself knew that I'd probably be moving on. So I says to the club, I says, look, I'm going to be moving. I actually didn't know if I was going to play at all, if I was going to retire, because I wasn't in a good place fitness-wise. But the club were adamant. They says, no, look, we want to pay for this operation. So what they've done is they paid for the op, and then they also gave me a deal until Christmas, even though I knew that I was moving on, that I wasn't a part of his plan. So the club actually gave me a contract till the Christmas and says, what we'll do is once you're fit after pre-season, you can go on loan for a month to East Stirling, because I knew that there was an interest there. And if you come through it, like physically, if your knee's fine, if you enjoy it, then after the month's loan, we'll just release you for your contract and you can go and sign. If you don't come through it right, or if you're not enjoying it, then you've got a contract here, so you don't need to worry about it. So they kind of made things easy for me. And then I went to East Stirling for the month. I think I only played a couple of games because I wasn't fully fit. But then I knew as soon as I went that it's where I wanted to go and play. They had just been relegated to the Lowland League, and again the club was obviously desperate to get back in the leagues, and it just felt like the right move at the time. So no, that's why I ended up back after a month's loan.
Yeah, so you went on to sign back with Shire, and you had those sort of first couple of seasons, 16 to sort of 18, quite successful. 41 goals, I think, in one of the seasons. It's a hell of a number. One that even Austin at our club at Kelty will be sort of fond of.
I thought about it. To be fair, I think that was the first season probably when we went back, and it was just really enjoyable. The only problem I would have had at the time was the standard of the Lowland League was nowhere near where it is now. I think that first season back, you had East Stirling, there was East Kilbride, Spartans, and potentially BSC who were just up and coming. But after day 4, you were really winning games like 4, 5, 6-0. It wasn't very competitive. But then every single year, it's just got better and better, and the standards improved, the standard of players improved, and you can see yourself this season how there's at least 6, 7, 8 teams at the top end of the table that will cause everybody problems, whereas we never had that then. So I've still scored 41 goals. It's still an achievement, but it was probably easier to do then than it is now. I think that's fair to say.
Absolutely. No, I think the league's definitely got more competitive year on year. And I'm sure if even if Austin listens to this and decides to give me an earful for it, he's going to argue that the season didn't get finished. So I suppose he's got that argument there as well. But no, he definitely a very successful spell at Shire. And yeah, in 2018, you made that step up to assistant manager alongside Dale. How did that come about? Is management something you're interested in?
I definitely, I always want to be involved with it, be management, coaching, as you say, the assistant manager role. I don't know what the future holds there, but it was basically our manager at the time, John Slidden, he was moved on, and the club basically kept me and Dale. We were the sort of two senior players. Dale had played for the Shire for, I think, all in maybe about 11, 12 years. So they just sort of asked us to basically just take the reins for a couple of weeks till we figured out what we were doing, and we went in, and I think we maybe won 3 out of 4 games, and then the club sort of says, look, do you want to make a decision if he's interested and stuff? So I spoke to Dale, who was a mate of mine, and we sort of decided between us that it'd be better if he was manager, I was assistant, because there was the potential that I was probably going to still play more. Dale he would have been happy to sort of not retire, but sort of use these selling emergencies only, whereas I was still going to be a regular starter. So no, it was something that we'd done going forward, and I loved every minute of it when I was there. To be fair, it was I had different difficulties. It's when I was playing, not so much, but when you're in the dugout, it's for having 18, 19 years of being able to control what happens on the pitch to then sort of losing that control. It's a wee bit more frustrating, but enjoyable all the same as well.
Absolutely, it's just a different challenge, I suppose. When you're in direct control or you're having to get results through other players, but I suppose it'll be in your makeup to enjoy that sort of challenge as well.
Oh, definitely. As I say, I loved every minute when we were doing it, and it is something that I'll look to do further down the line. But at this stage, as I said earlier, when I was at Peterhead, my fitness was letting me down. And to be fair, I'm probably in better condition now than I was 7-8 years ago. So I always just remember senior pros or people that I've played with over the years telling me, just play as long as you can. Don't retire early, because people have done it, and every single person that's done it's regretted it, as far as I'm aware. So to be fair, right now my main aim is just to go and have another year or two anyway, playing. And I think the way I feel now, my body should manage it. I'm 37, so I dare say I've not got too many years left, but I definitely feel I've got another 1 or 2 anyway.
Oh, well, he's definitely shown it, and we'll talk more about this season a wee bit later on. But 8 goals and 8 starts, you've shown that you've definitely still got goals in you. But looking at Shire, you were there sort of, I suppose, through some of its most turbulent years that the club's seen, from that first stint where they were sort of battling to keep their SPFL licence, to the introduction into the Lowland League, and have recently, Shire's gone through an interesting spell where, the likes of Nicky Lowe, Barr, some brilliant signings over the last couple of seasons. How is it playing alongside some of those boys?
Look, again, it was great being part of that, where the club they were well backed, which hasn't always been the case, and me and Dale, between us, managed to attract some top players, as you say, at the club. I mean, Nicky Lowe's, he's probably, I would imagine he could play Championship, no sweat. That he is that good, and there's plenty of others there as well. But it was just a good time for the club to be able to get those types of players, and it was exciting. I think that's the main thing. I think fans and players of a football club, you want to be excited. You want to have something to look forward to, and I think we managed to give the club that. So no, it was good.
Absolutely, and yeah, I think all in it was 180 plus appearances for Shire, 92 goals, and it was quite a surprise, a bit of a shock when it came to an end at the beginning of this month. What's it like having to sort of walk away from East Stirlingshire after all those years?
It was difficult. It wasn't something I had planned. It wasn't something that I wanted to happen, but unfortunately things have happened, and I can't really say too much on exactly what's happened.
Of course,
but it wasn't something that I wanted to do, but that's football. There's as many. I'm going to tell you, there's always a down round the corner. You'll have plenty ups, but and when it did happen, to be fair, myself and the club have both tried to do it as professionally as we can, and once it's done, then I've just got to sort of look after myself and see what's available to me after that. And fortunately for me, the option of Kelty became available, and it was something that really interested me.
Absolutely, because pretty soon after your departure from Shire, you put out on your own social media that you were still wanting to play.
Yep.
Some of the stats for the season so far, like I already mentioned, sort of solidified what you were saying, that you still could play. And it didn't take too long before you signed with Kelty. How did that come about? Did you have a few offers, or was Kelty sort of one that you seeked out yourself?
No, I probably spoke to a couple of clubs. I did have one or two interesting offers. Some actually going maybe down a level into the east of Scotland. Some going up a level. I had an offer for League Two, but I got a phone call, obviously for Barry, and straight away just speaking to him, I knew it was something that would really interest. Look, people want to be at clubs that are successful and that are pushing for good things, and it just sort of everything fit the criteria that I want. And look at it again. I'm no a young naive boy. I know how difficult it will be to break into the team at Kelty as well, especially at my age. It's a successful team who are doing well, but I'm pretty sure that there'll be chances there for me, and when they come, I just need to make sure I'm ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Kelty is going to be. There's a couple of factors that are obviously going to work in your favour. That the fact that there's still the desire in Kelty to push up onto League Two, and the fact that it's going to be a busy schedule, more so now after this 3-week suspension. What are your sort of expectations? What are you hoping to get out of your time at Kelty?
Look, as I said, I just want to play football as regular as I can. Obviously, if you can chip in with a few goals, great. But it's about the ambition of the club, and at 37-year-old, it's a chance to go and potentially go and win another medal. And these things don't come along. As you say, I played 19 years. I think I've played professionally now, and I've won 2 leagues and 1 promotion. So it tells you how difficult it is. And obviously, Kelty are in a position, we've gave ourselves a chance where we should be aiming to go and do that. And again, I think, look, especially now, it's probably going to be Saturday, Tuesday for now at the end of the season. So although we've got a good sized squad, I dare say there is going to have to be changes made in the team throughout those games, and I'll be ready to take part whenever needed.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned there it's a healthy size of squad, and there's plenty of talent within the squad. Is there anybody you sort of think, you've said you joined, you spoke to Barry, Kelty's ambitious, are a couple of the big reasons for joining Kelty, but is there any of those players that you look at within the squad that you're thinking, I'd really like to have a kick about with them on the park?
Well, as you say, obviously as a striker you can appreciate, it's easy to appreciate strikers, and Nathan's obviously scored goals at a ridiculous rate since he's came here. And to be fair, I'd seen a bit of Nathan at Falkirk, because as I say, I was a Falkirk fan, so whenever I could get to go and watch Falkirk, I still did, and he had a spell there. And again, he done okay at Falkirk as well. He maybe never got as regular football as he wanted, but he never let himself down when he played. And look, he's the type of player that you'd love to play against. He can sort of do everything at this level. So, but the squad, as you say, the squad's fully quality. There's a lot of boys that I've played with previously in my career there that I know how good they are. Jamie Stevenson, for example, when he was at Peterhead, he's a boy who can go and play anywhere on the pitch for you, and he'll be an 8 out of 10. So there's plenty there. There's quality right the way through the squad, which it's exciting to see.
Well, look, thanks very much for coming on and having a chat with us, Andy. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and fingers crossed we'll not have to wait too much longer till we get to see you on the park at New Central Park.
Aye, hopefully soon.
Right, thanks very much, mate.
No worries, buddy. Cheers.